However, belatedly, the four governments had learned some lessons from 2020 and planned their exit from the 2021 lockdown more effectively. All four governments sought to balance the relaxation of restrictions against the risk that potentially more transmissible and deadly variants would emerge. The task was made considerably easier by the vaccines programme. However, in late 2021, the emergence of the more transmissible Omicron variant caused an increase in infections and led to the further reintroduction of restrictions. An escape variant that can overcome immunity was repeatedly identified as the biggest strategic risk. Yet there were no detailed contingency plans for such a possibility. The sheer number of infections from the new variant demonstrates that had vaccines been less effective, or if the new variant had been as severe as previous ones, the consequences would have been disastrous. Yet with all their experience of the consequences of a pandemic and the response to it, governments still failed to act appropriately. In addition to reaching these conclusions, the inquiry has also addressed other important themes that arise from core political decision-making under the following headings: the membership role and functions of the administrative structures, particularly the emergency advisory bodies providing scientific and technical advice. The Scientific and Advisory Group for Emergencies, known as SAGE, one of the primary sources of expert advice, provided high-quality advice at extreme pace throughout the pandemic. But some aspects of its operation were constrained by the breadth and duration of its operation, the lack of clearly stated objectives by the UK government, and the repeated use of the mantra "following the science." This gave the false impression that decisions were being taken solely on its advice. As a result, some experts were subjected to appalling abuse and threats. What was done to protect the vulnerable from harm? Although the pandemic affected everyone in the UK, it was the vulnerable and the disadvantaged who suffered the most. They were the most affected by the restrictions imposed to control the virus. They were the ones most likely to die. Yet not enough was done to protect them from the virus or the response measures. Whether there were clearly defined, effective and transparent structures for government decision-making. Structures for government decision-making across the UK varied. At the start of the pandemic, the UK government did not have in place a sufficiently robust structure for decision-making long-term and largely bypassed traditional cabinet government.